Okay.
Hello student, let us continue with mechanics part of 11th class physics. We had discussed kinematics where we was considering the displacement, velocity vector, acceleration vector without considering the forces acting on the object. Now let us see in kinetics or dynamics part. In dynamics part what happens actually? In dynamics we consider the motion of the object, we find out its acceleration, displacement and velocity vector with considering different forces acting on the object. Now different forces we have to consider in dynamics, but in kinematics we are not considering the causes which is creating the motion of the object. So let us see in dynamics how can we find out acceleration and other things. Now to learn dynamics we must know the very fundamental principle of physics, that is Newton's law, Newton's first law, second law and third law, and then conservation of linear momentum is also there. Now which gives the insight how an object moves and how the forces are accelerating the object. So let us first see the first law of physics, that is Newton's first law, what it states actually. Now Newton's first law states that if vector sum of all the forces acting on the object is zero, then the object will be at rest or the object will be moving with constant velocity. Now object is at rest, then acceleration is zero, object is moving with constant velocity, then also the change in velocity is zero, and I can say acceleration of the object is zero. So if the sum of all the forces acting on the object is zero, the body is unaccelerated or the body is at rest or the body is moving with constant velocity. Now let us see how can we represent it mathematically. Now the first law of motion, first law of motion. Now let us see, this is an object. Let us consider this is an object of mass m. Now you will see this object is subjected to so many forces are acting on this object. Let us say a force F1 is acting in this direction. Let us take another force is acting in horizontal direction, F2 vector. Let us see the third force is acting in this direction, F3 vector, and let us take one more on this, F4 is acting in this direction. Now this object is at rest or moving with constant velocity. Now both the cases, if you apply the first law, the vector sum of all the forces acting. Now what is vector sum? This summation sign, I can write F1 vector plus F2 vector plus F3 vector plus F4 vector is zero. The sum of all these forces is zero. Why this zero? Because the object is at rest or moving with constant velocity. Now this entire sum of the forces can be represented with one force. I can say that is, also I can say that is resultant force. I can say that can be represented by R vector, or I can say the net force also. I can say the net force is also the resultant force of all these forces. Net force is zero. Then the object is, acceleration will be zero or it will be at rest or constant v. Now how can you apply this first law? Suppose the object is, let us see few examples. How can we apply in problems, exercises, how can you do it? Now to study, let us take first example. Let us take two strings are there, right? Now these two strings are holding a mass. I'll take, and a mass is attached here. Let us say the mass of the object here. This is string 1, this is string 2. And let us say this angle is alpha, this angle is beta. These are the two strings. Now since this object is at rest, then I can say the resultant force acting on the object is zero. Now when you write down resultant force acting on the object is zero, if I write down F net is zero, then you feel this is sum of two. One is sum of x direction forces and another one with sum of y direction forces. Now both these two will be 0 simultaneously because the resultant force is 0. So I can find out. Now let us see how to find out the tension in the two strings. Now tension can be decided if you see this is T1, this is T2 and this is mg. Now I can find out, I'll take for arbitrary, this is plus x direction and this is plus y direction. Now I'll say sum of forces along x is 0, then how can I write? I can take component of T1 and T2, T1 is along positive x, so T1 cos of alpha will be equal to T2 cos of beta. This I can write, sigma of x is 0. Same way I can write down the sum of forces along y is 0, so this is can be written as these y forces are T1 sin alpha plus T2 sin beta equals to mg. Now this gives you, these are the two equations, two unknowns, T1 and T2 are there. We can decide the value of tension in this string.